The NDTV India First Award goes to Dr. S. Jaishankar.
Well, 2024 has undoubtedly been the year of India, and under Dr. S. Jaishankar's guidance, India has skillfully navigated global alliances, balancing relationships with major powers like the US, the European Union, and Russia, while expanding ties in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Dr. Jaishankar's approach to international relations, characterized by India's multi-alignment strategy, has allowed India to retain our autonomy and avoid being into polarizing geopolitical blocs, thus emerging as a neutral, stabilizing force in the face of many crises engulfing the world.
Okay. Please come,
please.
sir. Oh, please do.
First of all, let me thank NDTV and all of you present here for this great honor. And I want to say I truly value this appreciation. But I also want to say that at the end of the day, we are all creatures of our times. And this is a good moment to be the External Affairs Minister of India. So a lot of the credit, I believe, should go to our times, to the country where it is today. And I want to share with you in a way why it is a good moment to be the EAM of the country. I think the first reason is very honestly the nature of the government of which I'm a member. Worked all my life in governments, for many governments. So I've had an opportunity to assess them increasingly from close quarters. But today, when we have a Prime Minister with such a strong commitment to modernizing India, who's prepared to do the reforms we should, not just the reforms we must, and where really in the government there is that degree of energy and that sense of purpose. And I can tell you almost in a way every week when the cabinet meets, if you look at the decisions which are taken, the policy implications that they have, it's really an extraordinary period in our national life. And for me, it is a great privilege to participate in it because it is very much a team effort. It's a very integrated way of working. And I would say again, as someone, who's in a way a kind of relatively a specialist in their domain, for me, this period has been a period of great learning as well. The second reason why it's a good time is actually because the external and the domestic, this dynamic has become much closer today than it has ever been before. Yesterday, I was attending a book release event, and one of the speakers said something which caught my attention. They said that when we started our economic reforms, in 1992, 91, 92. We were a $250 billion economy with a trade of $40 billion. Today, we are a $4 trillion economy with a trade of $800 billion. So think about it. I'm throwing these numbers at you because it's a way of measuring how much more today we are dealing with the world, how much more the world matters to us, how much more we matter to the world. And this process, in many ways, I gave you a GDP and a trade number. But if you look at investments, investments of Indians abroad, investments of foreigners in India, if you look at mobility, how many more of us travel abroad, how much more frequently we travel abroad, how many people work abroad, the fact that we have more than 1 million students abroad, the fact that we have 9 million people living and working in the Gulf, probably if you take, PIOs and NRIs, I think we are 33, 34 million people outside the country. So how much more today we are integrated with the world? But it's not just the physical integration. There's also today a connectedness. All of us, from the time we get up to the time we sleep, we pick up the phone, we look at the phone to see what's happening in the world. And the resulting awareness, the resulting sense of empathy or affinity or concern for something which is happening elsewhere, and understanding something happening somewhere can impact our lives. I think all of this today has actually profoundly changed the country, it has changed the society. And what it has done, in many ways, it has actually made foreign policy much more relevant to Indian society. So I could say in some ways, not as a personal testimonial, but as a description of the times today, that I have the privilege of being a foreign minister who can travel around India and find in the remotest parts of India an interest in foreign policy, which probably was not there even 5-10 years ago. A third reason is India itself. I think we are far more ambitious. We are far more aspirational. I came in at the tail end of my colleague Ashwini ji's remarks. And, some of what I heard him say, that itself should tell us really how much, what are the times that we live in. This is no longer an era where people are satisfied with the basics. This is not their expectation. This is not the limit of their expectation of the government anymore. That what in a way the digital public infrastructure has done, the implications it has had, not just for governance, for our ability to deliver benefits. That what he spoke about, the food and nutrition support, the health facilities we give, the houses we give, and these are the citizens' entitlements, except they were the citizens' dreams at one point of time. Today, they are the citizens' demands. In many ways, the citizens' achievements which they have in their hand. So, we are living in times where the quality of life is different, quality of jobs are different, quality of expectations are different. And if we look at our own conversations, you look at the national conversation, we are today talking increasingly seriously about Make in India, about being Atmanirbhar Bharat. We are aspiring to a Viksit Bharat. It's not an aspiration we would have had 5-10 years ago. Or, in fact, if one looks even at the achievements which give these aspirations credibility, this is today a kind of a can-do generation, a generation that has done the Chandrayaan, a generation which, was probably the most efficient producer and inventor of vaccines during COVID, which has produced its telecom technology. We talk of an India stack today, we talk of our own 5G technology. Or, as my colleague probably mentioned before I came in, a generation which today produces its own trains, Vande Bharat, of which we can be justifiably proud. Now, that's what's happening inside the country. But if you look outside the country, my particular responsibility, again, if you look in terms of our ambition and aspiration, we are charting our own way. We have today, in a way, we are a co-inventor of the Quad. We are pushing a new connectivity initiative called IMEC through the Middle East. We were the progenitors of the International Solar Alliance of a disaster resilient. So, in a way, this is today a country of ideas. It is a country which is shaping global conversations. So that too is a reason why it's particularly fortunate to represent the country and to hold this responsibility. But I do want to say a few words also about our capability and our confidence. I spoke about the COVID. I can tell you as a person who travels around the world, probably, I think I can assert more than anybody else in this room, unless there's somebody from an air crew who happens to be here. But, you know, much of the world still has not recovered from the COVID. Not just, it doesn't have to be countries in Africa and Latin America. I can tell you even parts of Europe have not recovered from the COVID. So if you look today at the bounce back, how we handled it, how we have recovered from it, or indeed of challenges like the one we had for 4.5 years, and to some extent we still do on our border with China, that the firmness, the determination, the fortitude with which we face that challenge. Or look at the way we are responding today to terrorism, that a country which let an incident, which let an attack as big as 26/11 actually pass unanswered, is today, sending a very clear message through strikes in Uri and Balakot. So whether it is a crisis or it may not be our crisis, it may be something for the world. One of our neighbors went through what was probably the deepest financial crisis in decades, which was Sri Lanka. And at the end of the day, more than the global institutions which were supposed to help that country, it was actually a neighbor like us who stepped forward of a scale of assistance which we ourselves would not have contemplated years ago. Or take the responsibility we shouldered just recently, the G20 responsibility. We actually took on that responsibility when the world was totally polarized, when people actually, frankly, sympathized with us, saying, I feel sorry for you, you're taking up the G20 at this juncture. Nobody expected us to pull it off, leave alone actually have achievements like bringing the African Union inside. So I do want to say today, yes, we are more aspirational, we are more ambitious, we are more capable, we are more, in a sense, confident. But most of all, we are an India that is more Bharat. That we can see today that in our country, in our 8th decade after independence, actually democracy has delivered. And when I say democracy has delivered, it just doesn't mean our elections are better than everybody else's. They are. But I mean, when you look at our politics, you look at our civil services, you look at our sports teams, you look at our journalists, we are today far more representative as a selection of people than we have ever been before. And that, to my mind, that the fact that in every walk of life, every part of India today has equality of opportunity. That success is not something which is elitist, which is not something which is metropolitan. So, to my mind, when we speak today of our traditions, of our heritage, of our culture, of our history, when we advocate why yoga is a universal wellness practice, or what is the importance of Ayurveda, or as I saw from one of the winners earlier, that importance of something like millets, which has been part of our food traditions, but which was forgotten really when we started consuming grains, which were part of a certain period of our history. So we are today a country under transformation, but a country who are, in a way, both staying true to our tradition and yet using technology to look ahead in our future. So I held forth at some length. I hope you would excuse me for that. But I do want to share with you today what a privilege it is today to be a face of this country abroad. And I can tell you that the strength of what I articulate abroad, the confidence with which I speak abroad, all of that really emanates from the fact that I am empowered by what I see in this country. Once again, NDTV, thank you very much.
Dr. Jaishankar, that was very